Hey there, I'm MamaLisa, and I've been blessed to meet amazing people along my life's journey. People with diverse careers, interests, and a passion for improving the world through acts of service and kindness. I'm an educator, a mother, wife, and friend to all. Early exposure to careers and training can change the world and end poverty as we know it. So what are you waiting for? Let's sit down, chat, and learn about careers together as we work to change the world. I'm MamaLisa. I know cool people, and I'm bringing them to you. And welcome to Career Talks with MamaLisa. Enjoy.
Alrighty, everybody, we'd like to welcome you to MamaLisa Career Talks. And on today, we are going to talk media. We have 6 amazing panelists today who are excited and willing to tell you to share the story behind their glory. So to begin tonight's talk, we are going to Atlanta, Georgia, and we'll begin with Miss Mia Mance.
Let me unmute. So much for just allowing me to be a part of tonight. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Rico, and all of the panelists. I am a program director here at G100, the Throwback Station in Savannah. When you say program director, unless you work in like the music business or radio business, people are like, what does that mean? It's basically like you're the boss of the radio station. So I certainly did not start that way. I started about 17 going on 18 years ago with Fox Sports News. I went to Spelman College and then finished my degree at the University of Arizona with a degree in communications and a focus in sports and entertainment. I started working for Fox probably the end of my junior, going into my senior year of college. I started as an intern, and then I actually got picked up to work for ABC, to do some stuff for ESPN, for sports, which really, when you look at about 18 years ago, we've really evolved when it comes to having women who are in front of the camera when it comes to sports. There were guys who were very skeptical back in the day about like letting you hold a mic, or could a woman carry her own on a basketball game or a football game. So that's how I got started. Media is a very male-dominated industry, and you need the guys in the industry, but I know any woman that works in media will tell you that in radio, in my specific position in America today, not even including women of color and how little that percentage looks like in terms of being general managers, operations managers, and program directors across America, it is less than 12%, maybe in 2020, and that's a statistic you can check out in Women in Radio. So getting to where I am now, although I still have bigger goals, and I do own my own media and social media company, it's been quite a journey. Like I said, I've interned. I started at the bottom in radio, where I was a street teamer or a promotions person, and literally would be out in the community from you name it in the morning until 4 a.m. And I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally. So there were times where I would literally live my entire life just being around people. And so it's so different, especially now, as y'all know, working in media, because our lives are based around being around people and telling people's stories. But within that time, as I started as a street teamer, and this is in Atlanta, I graduated from college, came back to Atlanta, got on with the radio station with Cox Media there. I worked my way up to, they put me on air, and that wasn't my plan. I thought that I would be doing something else. They gave me a shot on air, and everyone knows that like markets, so you get judged by market size, the number of the market, and I think Atlanta was number 9 in the country at that point in time. So I could have stayed in Atlanta, and I probably would have waited for a really, really long time to grow. But somebody came in the studio one day and they said, Mia, in order for you to grow, you've got to move. You've got to go other places. You've got to like do your work and grow your stripes, right? Like getting your stripes. It's almost like that's how you grow in this business. So I went from Atlanta. I got my first full-time gig for like $22,000. It's not a lot of money. And I'm sure, because we're being very real on this call, you can't do this for money. Like, I knew people who were making six figures in Atlanta, and it's a very different time in the media business. But my first contract was $22,000 to be a full-time radio personality. My pay increase went up to $25,000 for my second year in the business. So my first full-time year, I slept on the floor. I ate with McDonald's coupons from the station, a lot of ramen noodles. It was nothing sexy. It was nothing pretty. It was grind, 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 grind. And I worked, I think at that station, I was the only woman of color. And it was a different ride. I mean, I can remember there was a guy when I came there who would scream the N-word down the hall every day I came to work. And mentally, I had to grow. I had to learn that you do have to have a really thick skin in the business of media. And so I stayed on my grind. I got a call to go to North Dakota to become a music director. And I was like, I've never been to North Dakota. I don't know anybody that has. But I got my job in North Dakota becoming a music director. So I got my first management opportunity. I went from North Dakota. I got hired to go into Minneapolis as a radio personality, which was a huge jump. I think I jumped about 200 markets when I went from North Dakota into Minneapolis, Minnesota. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, that sent me into Hollywood. I started doing red carpet premieres. I started doing a lot of TV stuff. I used to host a TV show when I was in Minneapolis. But to be very transparent, my soul wasn't being fulfilled. And I felt like this is cool, but this isn't me. And so I left that situation. And that was a very bold move because I think, you know, a lot of times, and I'm sure we'll hear this on this call, and y'all wrap me up because obviously there's so many people that need to share their stories. You have to have that discussion with yourself about why you're doing what you're doing. And so I got out of it in that capacity and I started doing independent radio. I started programming independent radio and I found my joy coming back for my business. And then from that, when I was in the independent scene, I got my first call to become a program director. And from there, I think I've programmed, I don't know, like 5 or 6, I don't know, stations at this point. And then that way, now I've literally been in Savannah for 6 years and love it. And I still love the business. I think that it's a challenging time right now because advertising dictates so much of what we do in commercial radio. So what it will look like we're under a hiring freeze right now. So I can't bring new talent in. And how does that affect us going forward? And how do you still effectively cover everything in your market, tell all the stories, run the station, be the face of the station with less resources? And let me say this, anyone working in media today is blessed because as you've seen, there's been layoffs across every single radio company. And so just thank you for letting me be a part of this call and hopefully spark some interest for people getting into radio.
Thank you so much, Mia. That was incredible. And now we are going to stay in the city. Well, actually, no, this young man is no longer in the city of Savannah. He has now moved to a larger market in Atlanta, Georgia. And we would like to bring to the screen King Roy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roy Williams, also known as King Roy. I am a 19-year-old social media influencer, content creator. A year ago, I started doing YouTube, and now I'm able to make money off of it. So that's a blessing. And I'm just an all-around entertainer. I've been blessed to have an influence to where I can throw my own events, you know what I'm saying, bring people together and hold my own events. And I won't hold you guys too long. But yeah, that's basically what I do. So anything with social media, I'm into social media marketing. I love anything to do with social media. I love the way that it works because it's like a free platform and there's so many things that you can do on there. So many ways you can monetize it, so many ways you can meet people, network, you know what I'm saying, and influence other people's lives off the things that you do. So yeah, basically that's what I do. Anything with entertainment, anything with content creating, that's what I do. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia. I attend Georgia State where I will where I will major in business management. And I'll use that degree to one day own and operate my own business. So that's my goal and my plans. So I have 4 years of school to do. So I'm pushing through that. And yeah, basically that's it.
Oh no, Roy, I can't let you off that easy. Now, Roy,
Okay.
we have to get the story. How did this start for you? You know, you started off on social media. Where did it begin, and where has it taken you? Who have you? What have you done?
So I've always been like on social media, making skits and doing like comedic skits and things like that. And then one day, the manager of Zay Hilfiger, I don't know if you guys know him. He's the I think he has went platinum. His Juju on the Beach song. They reached out to me and asked would I like to host an event down here in Savannah, Georgia. I had never hosted anything. I have never entertained anybody live. I have always did on social media. So when the opportunity presented itself, I did take the opportunity, and I did go and host the show. The show sold out. The next day, I actually got opportunity to travel with them from Savannah to South Carolina to do another show. So from there on, I've noticed my influence, and I've noticed I've begun to gain a love for entertaining and hosting. So I've used that platform. I mean, I've used that talent to now do it on my own. So I now host my own shows. I now put on my own events and things like that. And since then, I've actually been able to make that a full-time job from doing that at the age of 19.
How old were you when you began?
When I began, I think I was 17. I think I was 17 when I actually started hosting live. I've always done stuff on social media, but I was 17 when I actually started hosting live.
Alrighty, and guys, for you listening, I've known Roy since he was in the 9th grade. So I remember when his career started when he was 15 years old. He's being quite modest. But Roy, what artists have you traveled with? Can you tell us about the reality TV show and how you connected?
I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of the rap game cast. Fly J, King Roscoe, Street Bud, Miss Mulatto, even like bigger artists. Like I hosted shows for Lil Baby and other artists. This is actually a lot of lists. I've done stuff in Savannah and out of the city and out of the state actually. So yeah, I've actually worked with a lot of artists.
Thank you so much, Roy. Now we're going to move to our next panelist, where we're going to stay in South Georgia, and we're going to head to the town of Statesboro, where we're going to introduce to you that boy, Travis Pryor.
Good evening. My name is Travis Pryor. Y'all got to excuse me if you hear any background noise. I'm actually working. But basically, I'm a local DJ. Folks around here know me as that boy. My journey started out pretty much on both occasions. But let me back up. I'm a local DJ. I do bounce houses. I do security. And I am the founder of Premier Radio Uncut, which is a Facebook radio station that I started. Going back to my DJing and Premier Radio, pretty much it was birthed out by somebody else. You know, I had a gift in me that I never knew that I had, and it took someone else to actually bring that gift out. Basically just sitting around the barbershop when it became to when I started DJing, basically just sitting around the barbershop, and a guy that was in the barbershop was an actual DJ. And I thought it was cool because, I mean, truthfully, I just felt like it was something to get women, to be honest with you. So I just kind of started going along with him and doing different events and things with him, and it kind of like just clicked on me like instantly.
Trav, you're on mute. You're muted.
I'm sorry. What y'all hear last?
You did it to get women, and you start following him.
Oh, yeah. So I started following him around or whatever, and it just clicked on me real instantly as far as like the music. I always liked music. I always liked beats. I was in band growing up. I just liked everything about music, you know, and never in my life would I thought I would be a DJ. My dad was a DJ. He was one of the top DJs around Statesboro and surrounding counties. I don't know if y'all know Disco Tizers, but he was actually a DJ for Disco Tizers. He was like one of the top DJs around. But I never picked up any interest in it until one day we had a big corporate event for PepsiCo, Christmas party, and the guy that was showing me everything ended up not not being able to make it that day. So I ended up having to do it on my own, and I just fell in love with it and just took off. A lot of the stuff that I learned whenever it came to DJing, I learned on my own, looking up YouTube videos and things like that right there. And now one of the top DJs around Statesboro. Whenever it comes, I like to do a lot of weddings and old parties and things like that. So with this pandemic going on, it actually caused me to slow down on my DJing. I had all the equipment, mixers, microphones, everything. I had everything that I needed or whatever. But when this pandemic hit, it actually caused me to slow down on my DJing. So I was looking for ways to possibly stay within the entertainment world, the media world, and one of my friends, he was like, man, listen, just do a radio station. And I was like, radio station. And he was like, man, you got everything that you need to do it with. Just go on Facebook. I was like, yeah, Facebook would be a good margin, because if you think about, Facebook is everywhere. Facebook, somebody can click on Facebook and see you way in Europe. When it comes to the radio station, I'm saying, you only reaching a certain radius whenever it comes. So I was like, okay, I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm like, well, Facebook would probably be the way to go. So I came up with Premier Radio Uncut. Basically what we do on Premier Radio Uncut is just we get on there, we act the fool, like cut the bobo or whatever, but we also speak on real topics and real life situations with everything that's going on with the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. We speak on a lot of that stuff. We birthed out in, I think, January was our first broadcast, and we've been going strong ever since then. So that's basically it for me.
Thank you so much. That was really good. Trav, now we are going to head out to Los Angeles, California, and we're going to hear from April Dobbs.
Hey everyone, my name's April Dobbs, and it's funny that you mentioned I technically do work out of Los Angeles, but just like much of the world, we're working remotely, so I am blessed to be in the capacity to still come home and work out of my home in Atlanta, even though I'm working in Los Angeles. But anyway, currently I work for Univision Television, and that is in Los Angeles. Previously, just a year ago, I was working for Fox Sports, and I was there for 10 years. Just to give you just a background really quickly on how I got here, I went to the illustrious Savannah State University in Savannah, Georgia, and had a very unique situation happen for me because I entered Savannah State as a biology major, later changed to an environmental science major, and there was a mix-up with a work study assignment which landed me with a work study assignment at the radio station. So it was a mistake. So I, like anybody else, they give you a chance to make some money, you're going to take it. So I started working at the radio station just to do reception work as a work study assignment. And the program director there, his name is Mr. Ike Carter, after hearing me on the phone a couple of times, thought, well, you got a radio voice, maybe you ought to take a crack at doing radio. And so, and then there was a campus-wide station, or I should say show, that was centered around events and news around campus. And I actually forgot the name of it, but what they had was representation from each of the colleges at Savannah State, and I just happened to represent the biology department. So that's how I got my hand in actually being on the air. The program director thought I had a voice for radio and started giving me an hour or two to do a jazz show at the campus radio station, WHCJ. And so that turned into a whole nother situation in its own. I quickly became a radio rep for Universal, Capitol Records, I can't, all of them, anything that was urban, I was the campus rep for them. And I just started hustling it. Next thing you know, there was an opportunity that came up at the local radio station E93 in Savannah. And the program director, his name was Sam Nelson, reached out to me and was like, hey, you know what? We see that you're doing your thing over at the campus radio station, and we'd like to give you a shot over here. So I basically kind of went over there, did like a overnight audition, and they gave me an opportunity. Basically, just he said he was working with potential. That's it. So it wasn't like girl, you're great and anything like that. He was just like, no, I'm working with a very green person. You have potential, so I'm willing to work with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And from there, that was 1998 when I started at E93. And by the time I graduated in 2001, I was the local morning show producer for Doug Banks in the morning. And that turned into a midday gig. I left Savannah, went to Shreveport, Louisiana, did radio there at KMJJ. I left KMJJ, went back to Savannah, and I may have my timeline down, but I've done pretty much every day part from mornings to evenings, and I did well in every day part. In 2006, I had just gotten to a point where I was in Savannah. At that point, it had been like 12 years since the time I first got there. And I just thought that it was just something more I could do. I graduated with my degree in environmental science. I was already working full time by the time I graduated. So at that point, I was just like, man, I was making $27,500. That's how much I was making when I left E93 in 2006. I knew that there was something better out there. I knew that my student loans was not quite adding up to how much I was making, and I had to do something else. I took what I thought was going to be a substitute gig in Baltimore, Maryland, which turned into a long-term substitute. I taught for 1 year in Baltimore City, and then after that, I realized, no, I really missed the media game. I was able to get a job working for Fox 5 News in Washington, D.C., and in there, I was working in the capacity of traffic. It's not like traffic like you say. It's more like commercial traffic. I can go on and on about that. But I did that for a while. And then left, where was I? Washington, D.C., working for Fox. Started working for a satellite operations company here back in Atlanta. I stayed here for a while. And then I was hired again by the Fox networks to work for Fox Sports. The Fox Sports Network, or the regional sports network in Atlanta, Georgia. I did that up until last year. I was transferred to Los Angeles in 2017. But then again, that was a whole nother situation. I can go on and on about every job I've had, y'all. But a year ago, I took a unique opportunity to work for Univision, which is an all-Spanish network in Los Angeles, one of the #1 networks in Los Angeles, and I'm the only African-American woman, and I do not speak Spanish fluently, but I work there under the capacity of a sales analyst and planner, and I'm also an account coordinator supervisor. So now, as Mia was telling her story, I saw so many similarities of how you move up and around. I was told some of the same advice. In order to move up in media, particularly, you must be willing to move up and around. So that was the reason why I was, able and blessed to be able, I should say, to leave, one market and take a huge leap from Atlanta to California. And again, I was just blessed to have the support of family and friends that, kind of ushered me and said, hey, take a leap. You only got one life to live. And so that's what we are now. I'm also, a podcast host. I have my own radio podcast called Soul Titty. And that's really just my ode and my heart to radio, which I love the most. I love doing radio more than anything. But Mia could even attest to this and say that, radio has changed drastically over the years. I also worked, I just left out Kiss 104 in Atlanta. I did work for Kiss 104 in Atlanta. At the same time, I was working for Fox Sports. So I was working 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, I was on the television side. Saturday and Sunday, I was the weekend personality of Fox Sport. I'm sorry, Kiss 104, and you know, I absolutely love doing radio. But again, the game is so different now. It used to really be about talent. It used to really be about music. And I can speak confidently, and if I say this right now it's just not. And again, that's a whole nother conversation of where we are in radio and things like that, and media in general. So that's, I guess, the quickest way. I guess it'd be better to answer questions, because again, I'm like me, I could go all day.
Thank you so much. What a very interesting and diverse journey. And
yeah.
Now we are getting ready to head on over to Mr. Tyrone McCoy. He's out near Alabama.
Yeah, I'm so close to Alabama, I can actually spit on it for real, for real. It's really weird here. Hello, everybody. Like Miss Lisa said, my name is Tyrone McCoy, and I am from Statesboro, basically. I mean, I was born in Philadelphia, but raised mostly in Statesboro, where I was, before I went off to college, introduced to Coach Campbell and Miss Campbell, who actually cracked the whip and probably are responsible for me getting out of high school. But that's another story. I went on to to get my bachelor's degree at Savannah State University also. And there I went and declared as a biology major. And I just knew that I wanted to cut on people. In my mind, I was going to be a surgeon. Well, I got to, chemistry 2, and the 3.5-hour lab that came with it. And I remember literally walking out one day, going to the academic advisor at the time, and just bawling my eyes out saying, I'm going to fail this class. I'm probably never going to graduate. This isn't for me. He goes, well, what else do you think you could do? Anything you're interested in? And I'm like, I have no idea. I just want to write. And so he said, well, why don't you look into something in the mass communications department? I was like, I don't even know what that is. Why so many words? What does it do? And so he gives me, the course guidelines and all of the stuff that falls under mass communications. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know anything about radio, but I can talk. So I just went ahead and started taking some classes in there, and I realized that they could get me in front of some editing software. And at the time, I didn't know that it was editing software, but when I started doing my intro classes, I started seeing a lot more things that I thought I would be interested in. So then I decided, from going to be a surgeon, I was going to be Spike Lee. I was going to make documentaries. That didn't happen either. So I get into it, I start doing radio, TV, different things, trying to find out where I'm going to fit. And they have this event that's going on at San State called the Southern Regional Press Institute. And one day I was at the Press Institute, as we were pretty much required to go to, and Mike Sela from WTOC, he was one of the longtime anchors there. He was at the Southern Regional Press Institute. And I walked up to him after he had done his panel, and there were some others there, but I felt like I had known him because pretty much every single day my grandmother watched him. He was in our house. He was basically a part of our family. So I walked up to him. I didn't totally fan out, but, I kind of tried to just to say hey, I've watched you my entire life. I love what you do. I think you're amazing. Can I come do your job? And that's literally kind of how it went. I wasn't even at the point where I could intern yet, but they did make a provision so that I can go and shadow. And I just kind of never left. I spent a lot of time there trying to figure out whether or not it was actually something I wanted to do. I learned web writing. I learned creating graphics specifically for news. And I also learned camera operating and some tape-to-tape stuff as well. So I was like, okay. So then it was time to graduate. And again, I didn't leave. I just kind of stayed there. Well, I skipped a step because before that I'd interned at WJCL. And I think that at the time you could only, for class credit, get one internship or something like that. So again, I couldn't intern with WTOC. So I was literally working for free. I probably shouldn't say that because somebody's going to get in trouble. But I was volunteering time. But anyway, Lo and behold, I graduated in May, and like I said, I wouldn't go away. I was still like, I asked to hold on to my badge and come and learn. And there was a reporter named Evan Johnson that I had kind of clung on to, and he basically tried to keep me working on getting a reel. And between May and June, I, again, didn't go away. I was there all the time. And the news operations manager at the time was like, I like what you're doing. Let me go ahead and give you a job. And for the folks who have gone before me and said you made absolutely no money, I can also attest that that has not changed. I think I was making like $7.75 an hour or something like that. I don't even know what it amounts to, because honestly, I was like part-time, and I was working 2:30 in the morning to like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But you do what you got to do to get where you want to go. So after about 6 months of that, the news director called me in, as she did so often with pretty much everybody, and wanted to know like what I thought I wanted to do, what role was I interested in moving into, because nobody wants to stay a floor director or a production person forever, I don't think. And I told her I wanted to be on air. And I said at the time I wanted to do health reporting, because again, I had seen news, I'd seen TV news, I'd seen how it worked. I saw the lights, I saw the adrenaline. I just knew that I needed to be there. Lo and behold, they asked me what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to do health reporting. They expressed that there could be some concerns with me looking very youthful. For those who don't know me, I am the biggest I've ever been in my whole life, and I'm still only 150 pounds. So I was a lot smaller, and didn't have any facial hair, and would not wear glasses to save my soul. So they were like, yeah, you look really youthful, so you're going to have to change up some things. And I was willing to do that, but the opportunity to grow someplace else came before I was able to before I was able to get that opportunity to be on air at WTOC. However, I did get a lot of experience there. So then I moved on and landed a photojournalist role in Augusta at the ABC station there. It was WJBF. And there I got to do a lot of cool things. I just remember I actually left my job at WTOC to go down, like I got off work and went down to do the interview there. And I just knew I had bombed the interview, but it was like fate or fortune. I'm not 100% sure, but there was a fire. A really big fire on the way back from Augusta to Statesboro, and I passed it, and something said, Tyrone, turn around and record this. So I recorded it on my cell phone. I edited it down, and I wrote a quick little VOSOT, a TV script basically for the station, and I sent it over, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you guys are interested in this, but I knew it was in the outskirts of their DMA. So I was like, okay, yeah. Here, I did this for you. And like the next hour they called and were like, you're hired. So that was really cool for me. I was like super excited about that. But I was also cognizant about what I wanted to do before accepting a role. I'd said, hey, listen, if I'm coming in here, I'm coming with the intention to get on air. So I want that to be understood. So got in and continued to work pretty much 7 days a week. I was actually the weekend photographer for quite a while, which meant that I went to work on like Wednesday and I worked through Sunday. And on the weekends, you got a lot more flexibility. So I was able to go ahead and start again building another reel. And I got the opportunity during the holidays to fill in as a reporter. And I'll never forget, my very first live shot ever was where they had at Fort Gordon, I believe is what it's called. They had like a mass exodus of soldiers to go home for the holiday or something. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't care. I was super excited to be on live air. And I knocked it out of the park. So then I got the opportunity to fill in pretty much through the holiday season and continue to fill in from there. But there were some differences in opinions of how things should have gone and what vision they had for me versus what I had for myself. So then I moved on to Columbus, which is where I am right now. I got a job at WTVN, which was so much like WBET. In my mind, that's why I actually took the job. I had a couple different offers on the table, but there were so many brown faces and there were so many people that looked like me that I was just like, I have to be here. Like, it's got to be a different opportunity than anything that I've had getting up to this point. So anyway, get there, do that for about a year, and start realizing that the direction that media is going is not necessarily where I think I want to go, at least not on TV. I just knew I wanted to be like Walter Cronkite or Max Robinson or something like that. I wanted that level of storytelling, and everything was new next now, so there was no time for that. So I started looking at other things that I could do. I got out, and I've now dabbled in nonprofit communications. I've done bank marketing and advertising, and now I'm actually the director of marketing and communications for an Alzheimer's research facility. So I know I went a little bit around the world, but that's my story.
Thank you, Tyrone. What a great story. And you do look adult now. You still look young, but you do look adult now. Congratulations. But let me ask you this, Tyrone. You did say when you were in Savannah that they didn't think that you looked old enough. When you were able to go to the other stations and they allowed you to get in front of the camera, did they have the same reservations?
There was a lot of reservations about my youthfulness. There were a couple of times where I was limited in the amount of color that I could wear, or the type of colors that I could wear. So I couldn't wear pastels. I couldn't wear anything really other than blue, black, and white. And at one point, I was limited to not even wearing polos. I could only wear polo when we were at a station-sanctioned event. I had to wear glasses, and I had to try and grow facial hair, which at the time I could not do. So it's actually a real life thing. They definitely are a vain media when you're on TV, but I mean, that's what you knew you were getting yourself into. So you kind of sign up for it.
Thank you so much. And now we are going to go to our last panelist for the evening, Miss Tomika Jackson, and she's coming from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hello, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. As Miss Lisa has said, my name is Tomika Jackson, and I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and it has been such a great joy to listen to everyone's story already. Like, when Mia and April was talking, I was nearly over here like crying because I was reliving like the life that I had working in television news. But for me, I went to college at Florida A&M University, and I had a major in journalism. So from 1994 to 1997, I was in the journalism department at Florida A&M University. But in 1997, I got pregnant with my first child. So Florida A&M has an amazing journalism program. So one thing about that program, you have a lot of talented people there that African Americans that already know how to write. They know what they want. So when you're in a program like the journalism program at Florida A&M University, like, you can't be chill, because these are actually the people that you are going to be competing with when you leave college to go get a job. So at Florida A&M University, I really, the gift of gab, my personality was really kind of perfected and honed there, because everybody there was going to be a star, like all of us were. Like, for me, I was going to be Katie Couric, but when I got to Florida A&M, I found out like that wasn't cool to want to be Katie Couric, so I turned it into wanting to be Oprah. But I got pregnant in 1997, and I had to leave my senior year in college, and I transferred to Valdosta State University. Their program was totally different from Florida A&M. It was a communications program, and instead of being personality driven and focusing on writing, which is much of what we did at Florida A&M, at Valdosta State, it was very technical. I learned how to edit video. I learned how to use all types of video cameras. I learned how to operate mics. I learned how to operate soundboards. It was a more hands-on experience, but which was great because both of those programs married together prepare me to start a career in television news. I always thought that I wanted to be a reporter. So right out of college, my college professor at Florida A&M University even though I was at Valdosta State, he was sending me jobs because he wanted to help me. Of course, I was a single parent, 21 years old at the time. He wanted to help me get a job. So I had all these jobs lined up before I left Valdosta State University. But I ended up taking a job right there in Valdosta as a reporter because at the time WALB TV in Albany had a satellite station there. So I was able to stay in Valdosta, which was very good for me. Like I said, I was a single parent, and I was able to report there locally at their satellite station. But eventually I got promoted, and I was asked to come to the main station, WALB TV 10, to come and work as a morning show producer. And I really didn't know what morning show producer was, but what I did know was that I would be working at night. And so it would be an overnight job position. So I was having to report into work like at midnight. And because the morning show, of course, starts, we had our first like tease at like 5:30 or something like that. But like I said before, I was a single parent. And there's one thing that Mia and April touched on. One thing that I didn't know going into media was that you have to be able to move around if you want to move up in media. So before I had my daughter at the time, I was ready to do that. But once my life changed and, you know, my aspirations were still the same, but there were going to be a lot of sacrifices that I had to make. So even taking the morning show producer job was a tough decision for me, but I knew it was what I had to do in order to get, I wanted to be an evening reporter or work for one of like 5 o'clock news or 6 o'clock news. So I knew that was what I needed to do in order to get my foot in the door there. And so, from WALB TV 10, I got maybe a few noon spots at WALB TV 10. I worked there for 2 years. And then I started out there at $21,000. So that was a long time ago. But I started there at $21,000. And then I decided that I wanted to move to a better market. And I was offered a job position at WTEV TV in Jacksonville, CBS 47. So my first gig was working with NBC. Then I moved over to CBS 47 and at WTV in Jacksonville. What was a blessing to me at both of these stations was I was doing both morning shows, and both morning show hosts were African American women of color. Carla Heath Sands at WALB TV. WTV TV was Dawn Lopez. So they immediately like kind of took me under their arms, and they served as mentors for me. And in addition to me knowing that if I wanted to get to where they were, not only was I going to have to move around, but also I was going to have tough skin as a producer. Because being a morning show producer, it's very fun. It's not like the prime time. It's not like, you know, a all news show. It's very fun. It's interactive. You have to bring guests in. You have to make sure people love the show because everybody wants to be the #1 morning show. So both of them at the time really helped me kind of hone my skills and kind of go and try to figure out what I really wanted to do. And even though at the time I said that I wanted to become a news anchor, I realized really early after I got to WTATV that was going to be it, but it was going to be hard for me to do that with a child. Because, you know, I wasn't by myself anymore, and I was going to have to go to a lot of different places. But I did know that I wanted to move up. So I got offered another job position in Savannah. So there's a lot of Savannahans on here. A lot of you were at Savannah. I moved on over to WTOC TV in Savannah, Georgia, where still I was able to work with another amazing anchor there, Dawn Baker. Which, I mean, every time I had the opportunity to talk to somebody, to sit at their feet, to ask them about this industry, like, I think that I got scared and more scared because I knew that there were places that I was not going to be able to go, you know, having my daughter, and I was going to have to make some big sacrifices. I do want to say that as I moved throughout these markets, my pay did increase. Once I got to WTOC TV, I think my pay had finally increased to like 32,000 at that time. So I wanted to do more actually, and I wanted to go into a larger market, and like the place to be to go that I knew from when I was in college. All my friends, when I was going to FAMU, everybody was saying that they wanted to go to Atlanta. Atlanta was the place to be. So I decided that I wanted to apply for a job in Atlanta. What I didn't know was, even though Atlanta is the place to be, Atlanta is what was the place that was not paying. So in order for me to move to Atlanta, I was going to have to take a major pay cut. And remember, at this time, I am still a parent. But I did get a job offer at WSB TV, again, to work as a morning show producer and then do reporting part-time. So it was very hard for me to actually just get a full-time reporting job. So when I got ready to come here to Atlanta, I had this like come to Jesus moment with one of the anchors, with Dawn Lopez, and she was basically saying to me, Tomika, you're gonna have to make some hard decisions. You're taking a pay cut. You are a mom. This industry, you're gonna have to keep going harder and harder and harder. So either you're gonna have to take this pay cut, go to this job, or you're gonna have to do something different. So what I decided to do was I decided to do something different, and I took a job just like April did. I took a job as working like a long-term sub here when I got to Atlanta, but I still wanted to be here. And but I worked as a long-term sub, also teaching English and also teaching journalism. So that was like an elective class. So it did keep me in media. And what I decided to do was just start my own media company. And now I learned that the market in Atlanta was very hot for that. So I started my own media company working in the Christian entertainment world. I started doing red carpets for gospel show awards. I started doing bookings, because when you do morning shows, you book a lot of talent, and your Rolodex is huge. So I started booking for award shows, talent showcases, events, and things of that nature. And I got my name out there. And I also started hosting certain events pretty fast. Then I started my own media company. But as Mia was talking, like all these, like I said, these keywords keep coming in. I started asking myself, like, really, like, what do you want to do? This stuff, at the end of the day, you're taking a lot of pictures. You're on people's, little shows. Where are you going with this? What's the end goal here? And I decided I wanted to do more meaningful work. And so instead of me just doing more celebrity red carpet shows, I started just producing events. I started to do more events like weddings. And I was reluctant about that, because people started calling me an event planner. And I'm like, I ain't no event planner. I'm an event producer. So, that was one of the things that I had to really get straight with people. Like, I'm an event producer. Don't call me a planner. And so I have found like my just right place in doing events and working as an events freelance producer here in Atlanta. I'm getting ready now to launch my own podcast and TV show called Go Girls Rock. I have a company called Go Girl Go, where I do specialize in producing events. It's geared towards helping women who want to position themselves in the media, and coaching them and helping them in that area. And that's kind of where I am now. I will say this, that the one thing that I did learn during the time that I was, on my journey in media, that you really do have to have tough skin. Like, there are so many. April made a reference to, during the time where I was in working in media, talent meant everything. Like, you had to be on your A game. Now it's not like that anymore. It's not about talent anymore. I've applied for positions in different places, and people who got the job never had any experience in TV before, but they were very popular. So, so that's what kind of led me in the direction to stand on my own 2 feet. I've been able to do that. I've been able to get good work as a freelancer and get paid doing it. There's a science to it. You have to know your worth, and you have to definitely build your skills. Like right now, I'm in a new Adobe class because I need to polish up on my Adobe Premiere Pro. skills. I need to polish on my editing skills because I'm a linear editor. I hate non-linear. So right now at 44, I'm in an editing class, just polishing up my skills. So you have to be willing to grow if you really want to do well in this industry. So yeah, that's my story right now. I just transitioned from being a director of events for a nonprofit, and now I'm going all in with what I want to do and how I want to help women who desire to work in the field of media. That's me. That's my story.
I love it, Tomika. Thank you so much. And now we're getting ready to move into what I like to call the lightning round. Now, you guys have heard the career of all of our panelists, but along the way, they've all encountered challenges. You've heard a little bit of it, and now I'd like to ask our panelists to please share one of those challenges, and or you can decide to tell us how you feel your life outside of your career. Let's see which way the spirit moves you. So we're going to begin with Travis.
I'm sorry, I was out of the truck. What were you asking again? I was trying to drop a trail. I'm sorry.
All righty, Travis. So what I'd like for you to do is to share a challenge that you've had along the way, or tell us how you feel your life outside of your career.
Challenges, basically just when it comes to the premier radio station, the just knowing structure and getting structure, and just knowing the direction to move the radio station pretty much. I thought it was a good idea when I first jumped into it, but it turned out to be a lot more work than what I expected, but just basically the major challenge that I have with it when it comes to that is just feeling my way through it. I have no radio background at all, so basically just feeling my way through it and trying to figure out what missing pieces are for the puzzle, and how can I progress and become maybe a 93.1 or a 94.1 or even a 91.9 Georgia Southern, So basically that's the challenge. Other than that, there are really no major challenges when it came to it. How I spend my day outside of doing the radio thing, you see it now. I'm actually in the truck now. I work a full-time job with PepsiCo, spending time with my family and maintaining my business as far as my DJing and my bounce house business. That's basically it.
Thank you so much, Travis. And we do have a question from the Zoom room for King Roy. Chris, are you ready?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
King Roy, how's your schedule daily?
Say it again.
How is your schedule daily?
Well, as of now that school is out and has been affected by COVID, I'm kind of free now. But when I was in school, it was like classes during the day and then me trying to find time to enjoy myself during night. I mean, like after classes and at night, still trying to get sleep while still trying to upkeep my social media videos, my content, my YouTube videos. So it was like school first, my business, my social media things, and then still trying to find time for me to have fun on campus and do things in general. So I kept it at school during the day, business like midday, and then at night I focused on myself, campus life, and trying to get some sleep for class to do it all over again. So that's basically how it went.
All right, and Roy, while you have yourself unmuted, we'd like for you to go ahead and share some challenges that you've had along the way.
One of my biggest challenges, and I learned so many things from this challenge and from this event. Being young in the industry, not only the entertainment industry, but trying to put on events and putting on productions and stuff like that, and then not being supported financially by anyone. So me doing these things out of pocket There's a lot of things that I do know, but there's a lot of things that I don't know. So I did a huge event. I think I brought down about 2 or 3 celebrities. So I had to pay for them to come down here. I had to pay for the venue. I had to pay for security. I had to do all of these things by myself. I really didn't have help, and I'm the type of person where I don't really too much like to ask people stuff because I feel like I'm burdening them. But I found out, like, in this industry, you have to have help. Like, you can't do it by yourself. No matter how much I want to, I need help. It's people that I need to be mentored by. It's things that I need to know that I don't know. So I put on this event. Long story short, I put about $8,000, $9,000 into it. I'm not thinking about the promotion, the correct promotion that had to go behind it. I'm not thinking about all the stuff that had to come behind it. I was just doing it quick. The people, the teens in the city was telling me, we want this, we need this. So I put on the event, and I absolutely lost all of my money. I walked away that night with absolutely no money. So I put in close to $10,000, and I walked home with literally no money. I think I actually owed money, so I think I was in the negatives. But it was so many things I learned. From that night. So yeah, every time before I do events and before I do things, I always try to think now. I ask around, get help. I do have mentors that are in the entertainment industry, so I have them guide me, mentor me, get advice and things from them before I do anything big or do anything in general, because there's always something that you can learn. And being in a position, you have to know, like, it's always something you can learn. You don't know everything. So yeah, that's basically it.
That's very good. Thank you for sharing that. And now we will zoom right on over to Miss April Dobbs.
I got to unmute. There we go. So challenges, that's when you said that, my head nearly blew up because I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so many, like it depends on the day. There's a challenge every day. I think that I was just trying to take notes, like what could I say? I think Tomika hit on a very important aspect of things when she said, that this is a very cutthroat, competitive nature industry. And with a young man, Tyrone, who mentioned the fact that, there was some sacrifices he had to make when it comes to things like your personal image. I remember, when I was working at Kiss 104 and the time, I mean, again, like by far working in Atlanta, my hometown, at an old school R&B station was probably like the best thing ever. Like I live for the weekends because I love doing that. I love old school music. But during that time, there was a shift in radio where, again, like Tomika mentioned, it turned into a situation of popularity. The Housewives of Atlanta became the prototype for everything. So talent on the air, they wanted people to reflect that. And I remember having a conversation with the operations manager at the time about, and keep in mind, my numbers were great. I had number one, day parts and was doing well as far as my ratings were concerned. Like no complaints, everything was great. I was killing it on the weekends on my slot. I was good. And then he had a conversation with me about me being a lot more controversial, and they wanted to change my image so that I would reflect more like one of the housewives. Like they wanted me to be messy in essence. And, I didn't feel like at that point in my life I had done radio in full-time in some capacity. I had been a music director. I had been in the game for a while at that point. And then you start to say, listen, when do you start choosing your integrity over this? When do you say, I'm not going to change this? Because what the black community, especially in entertainment, what they need to see is that we're not the same. We're not the same across the board. There are, educated black women. There are women that are just happy. We're not angry. We don't fuss. We don't read people. We don't celebrate pettiness. Not everyone does that. So that was a huge challenge for me to walk away from. And that was the reason I walked away, because they wanted me to go through this whole, audition to be messy thing. Let's see how messy you can get. Can you, and then work on your image. You're a big girl. You have you thought about losing about 45 pounds? That stuff like that, if you don't have the skin for it, it will destroy you. And I will tell you, for a long time, I left that station for 2006. I'm not on commercial radio right now. I decided to do my own thing with podcasts because it took a couple of years for me to build my self-esteem back up. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm pretty dope the way I am. And when you see people like, Oprah, and you see people like, April Ryan, these people I look up to and I idolize, and you're like, you know what? I know they're catching it. If they're catching it and they made it, I can do it too. I'll create my own path. So that part is probably the most challenging thing, just to keep your integrity. Understand you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. You're gonna have to do it. So there's some things you're gonna have to do, but on the other side, you have to figure out that balance. And then also, just I think another huge challenge is just understanding you're going to have to work with some interesting people in this industry, because everyone is trying to get ahead. Everybody is. There's like nobody, just like he mentioned, I think Travis mentioned, nobody just wants to be a producer. Somebody else wants to move ahead. Everybody wants to be the next, CEO, or maybe you want to be the next personality. Maybe you want to have the next biggest show. So you do have to understand that there's a struggle for power. And then that sense, it's an extremely competitive natured industry. If you are not really willing to play that competition game, it's going to be rough. There was a time where, people will say competitive, and then that would be a plus. Like, it's a good thing to be competitive, but I think that this really challenges you in this industry on how competitive you really are. Like, how much you want to get ahead, but how much are you willing to give up to get there? And so I think that kind of separates the cream from the crop. Phenomenal people who are in power positions in media, and you could call those people's names. You want to work with those people. But let me tell you something. Those people are few and far between, okay? They are some a-holes that are in very powerful positions in this industry. And if you don't have the intellectual fortitude to deal with it and the wherewithal, it will eat you alive.
Thank you so much for that raw insight and wisdom, April. Now we're going to head back over to Tyrone. Tyrone, let us hear it.
I mean, I think it's really telling that it seems like the folks that have worked in the broadcast side of things are having a very similar struggle or challenge. I would like to say that my challenge was very, very much the same. I didn't fit the mold of what they thought I should have been. And I remember in one particular instance, I'm not going to say where, to protect everybody, but I was taken off air and counseled because there was another black man in the market. And at the time, I don't know if you've ever paid any attention to this, but there are not a lot of men in each market. And if there are a lot of men in each market, there's probably only one black man. And he's very rarely dark-skinned. So, one, I was competing with every other light-skinned man in the world, every John Legend and what's the man's name? TJ Holmes. Like, everybody that looked like that, I was competing with that, but I was also competing in that particular market with another young man that was at a station across the city. And he was this very cocky, in-your-face person. And if anybody's ever met me, that's not really how I am. I was taken off air once and literally counseled and said, put your game face on. And I was like, this is my game face. They were like, what did you said you ran track? What's the face you made when you were, competing? I was like, this is my competition face. Like, I'm not that person. But it continues to happen, and you begin to kind of, what's her name? Like April said, you begin to kind of question who you are, and it does take a toll on your self-esteem. But even beyond that, I think the challenge for me, because I've been pretty confident in who I was. The biggest challenge for me has been learning to bloom where you're planted. So there's nothing wrong with, growing and creating your own way. But sometimes it's necessary to take a step back and kind of sit in where you are so that you can absorb what you're supposed to get from that particular time, from that particular lesson. I've not been one that's been very patient. I'm still not a very patient person. If I don't like something, I will jump up and I'll go to whatever the next thing is. But sometimes, and the older I've gotten, the more I've learned, sometimes those lessons in adversity, those lessons in challenges, oftentimes help you later in life. And so if you skip those opportunities, you still gonna learn it. You still gonna rush your way into that brick wall, and it's gonna hurt. And then you're gonna have to sit back and be like, ow. And you're gonna pat yourself on the head. You're gonna, clean yourself up. But then you gotta lick those wounds and get back up, right? So aside from knowing your self-worth and knowing what you bring to the table and knowing when it's time to walk away, just also know when it's time to sit and listen and kind of take in what you're supposed to get from that situation, hopefully. Learning to bloom where you're planted.
That's very good. Thank you. And now we're going to head back to Savannah with Miss Mia Mance.
Y'all, I just have to say thank you. I've been so blessed. I think a lot of times we feel like we're out here, like you said, Tyrone, like we're just out here on our own. And like my soul feels good just having a chance to be a part of this call. Everybody's really, really nailed it. I think, April, especially being a woman and all of the surface things that really, I think you want to just show up with your talent and you've heard everybody say, have your experience be valued. I think that, King Roy, you work with a lot of artists. As a woman, when you work with celebrities and artists, you are watched and judged. You can't think about talking to, dating, sleeping with. Your boundaries have to be so high because women's reputations are more at stake and conversated about between the men in the industry than it's often talked about. There's a major double standard in every area. If you stand up for yourself, if you advocate for yourself, if I advocate for myself, I'm a boss. If I'm a guy, if I'm a woman, there's other words that come with that, right? But you do have to be your best advocate no matter your gender. If you're not having conversations about your career, your pay, what's going on when you're not allowed to be on air, when people are coming for those things, people will run right over you and your soul and will not look back. And things that you might share with in confidence will be used against you. So you've got to really sit and be your best advocate in this business at all times. I think, again, the conversation of it's not what you know, it's who you know. So this industry is small, it's tight. There are people with a lot of power, and it really is about those connections. And like you said, King Roy, it could be all the social media network. It could be all the radio, the big heads of all the companies. They all know each other. They've got deep history. You name it, they know each other. TV, very much the same. I think on the other side of it, the balance, I wanted to have a successful family. I saw a lot of times when Tomika was talking about being a mom and not being the first priority. I believe in that. I believe, when God blesses us with kids, that will be my priority. My husband will continue to be my priority. Because I didn't like seeing people go through divorce or spouse, or just be with a bunch of people. That's not who I am as a person. And I wanted my family and my faith in God to lead every decision that I'm out here making. So I do believe that no matter if we're on the radio side, the TV side, social media, the sales side of what we do, that your life can be an and not an or. And when people say, nope, you got to pick, that's not the space for you. Nope, you got to be this other way. That's not the space for you. That's almost like God giving you that light bulb to go, maybe like you said, Tyrone, I need to keep looking, for something that honors who I am. And because we're still in the fight for representation, we're still in the fight to be heard, we're having these critical conversations right now. But I'm so glad that we can share our truths, because I think a lot of times you felt like, if I say anything, I'll be blackballed. And I remember that. I remember going through moments where if I don't do what everybody else wants me to do, will I ever work again? And I think that there were people who were like, she'll never work again. And, God bless it that 17, almost 18 years later, again, you know, you can be who you are. And as we're all, you know, sitting here and as Chris is on this call, I think it's understanding that God gave you your specific talents, voice, looks, background, because my love was for people. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't think about the money, because clearly we've all talked about it's not a bunch of money, but it has allowed me to service and be of service to so many in this platform that, like, I go, and like you said, as we continue to evolve what radio looks like, and as we, you know, on a local level in Savannah, my station, and G100 is the newest, right? Because obviously it's been E and the Beat and these big heritage stations, but we're always serving Savannah. Like, that's the mission. It's not just the talent or just the songs. It's like Savannah first, Savannah first, Savannah first. And I feel like if I always think about Savannah first as the leader of the station, then I'm serving something much bigger. And hopefully that example will keep this community, not just me or being employed, but like that it'll make the community better. So that's kind of my tying in the challenges with the how you stay in it, because yeah, your soul, you got to hold on to your soul tight, and you got to hold on to who you are so tight and not let other people dictate it. And I will say this, King Roy, you talked about losing money, getting some airtight contracts, having a good lawyer, having a team that's writing out those numbers. My husband's a lawyer, and I'm very lucky. But when I got with my husband, he airtighted my entire business brain, where things I didn't think about, loopholes, things to make sure that you're getting your returns, right? You got to have those things in place to protect yourself, your contracts, those kinds of things, because unfortunately the business it can be dirty, you know? So that's it for me.
That was awesome. Excellent words of wisdom there, Mia. And Tomika Jackson, we're going to come back to Atlanta and let you close us out. Where's my Tomika? Tomika, you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Sorry. I recently had the opportunity to watch the movie Bombshell, maybe about a month ago. When I watched Bombshell, one of the first things that I said when I watched that movie, it's a movie about women and what they had to go through in television, Megyn Kelly, and all of the things that they had to do in order to rise up the ladder at the station that they were at. And the first thing that I thought about that I said after I watched that movie was, thank God that I never got to that level where I went through that experience. And I felt like God was really protecting me from something bigger up the ladder, that I would have been put in some very compromising positions just to get where I thought I wanted to be one day. And the end goal for me was to actually just be an anchor and be a TV host and have my own show. But one of the biggest challenges that I will say, and I would just piggyback off of everybody else, is just knowing who you are and why you want to do what you do. Like, if you just want to do this because you want to be on TV or you want to be famous, sooner or later, you're going to get a reality check. You have to just tell yourself, wanting to be there just for that reason is a very vain reason. Being a great communicator, and being able to disseminate information to people, to meet people, to share with them, to connect with people in such a way, for me, is what it's all about. And I had to learn that whether or not I'm on TV or not, I can do that wherever I am. And so just the challenge of like wanting that spotlight and telling yourself, I'm not going to sell myself out just to get the spotlight. Like, hey, I got to stand for something. And so for me, I was willing. Somebody said the ability to walk away, to tell yourself, I'm walking away. And whatever I need to do in order to become who I believe that God has called me to be, I'm going to have to do it. And that's where the young man is right now. I can agree with you. It's going to take sacrifices to do this on your own. You are going to have to spend your money. You are going to have to do your own promotions. You are. But in the end, it's going to be more fulfilling. It's going to be more meaningful. And I think it's just a just right place for somebody who truly wants to work and is called to this industry. So the challenge of just knowing who you are and why you want to do what you're doing, and then also for the young budding person who wants to come into this industry, getting in the door. You are going to have to be very, very creative with knowing how to get in the door. There are so many people who are sending resumes, reels, and everything that want the same job that you want. And just figuring out where that place is, you might have to start at the bottom. But, go to lower markets. Do what the other young man said he did. He was doing it for free. Some places you'll have to do that. You'll have to make those sacrifices if this is truly something that you want to do. But I would say all in all, it's just the challenge of knowing who you are, why you want to do this, and what is, the most important thing of all of this. Do you want, when you see people, you don't want people, you have a bad attitude, you just want to be famous, or you genuinely love people, and they were so happy today that you brought this story out and it brought awareness to you, and you went home saying, today, I'm so glad I was able to get that information out to people, or I was able to talk about this. So, yeah, know who you are and also getting your foot in the door. That's something that were the two biggest challenges for me that I had to hold on to and overcome in this industry.
Thank you so much, Tomika. And we do have a question coming from the chat room. Is it better to just start your own or go into the industry and look for employment? And this question goes to anyone that would like to answer.
I think having multiple grinds is a good thing. I think the steady check helps pay the bills. Let's just be very honest. I think the pain will push you to start your own. That's, to be very real, that the understanding that when you know how to make other companies money, that's you recognizing your power, right? So taking an endorsement and going, wait a minute, okay, how do I really turn that into a long-term monetary solution? I think, you really have to navigate your emotions and your business brain. And I think that both are very relevant, but when you're moving in terms of all of the numbers that are going to make your life work, if that's your childcare, if that's your transportation, your travel, whatever that needs to be, your production costs, you got to figure out what those hard costs are. And sometimes the company job will allow you to kind of have the flexibility to fund the rest of the independent until you're able to fully go independent, in my opinion, because I do both. So I think I've had my own media company now about 4 years. But I also think you have to know good client relationships in any situation, right? We can all agree to that. Really good clients, like you said, Roy, knowing people and knowing how they're solid. You're branding yourself with solid companies allows that business, of your own business, to really grow. Because if we're solid here on this call, but if we do business with somebody else, you almost could jeopardize your own company because you partnered with something that's not a solid foundation. My thoughts.
All right,
Lisa,
now you're on mute again, Tomika.
I wanted to piggyback. I'm sorry on what Mia said. It's just basically where you are right now. If you have money where you can, of your own right now, where you can work on your own media company or business, your own brand, then go for it. But if you need to pay the bills, I would say that going to actually work for a media company is a great start. It also has, me working in the media has helped me build relationships, and it has also helped me with credibility. There's been times like me as a freelancer where there's somebody else that wants the same job that I have, but the fact that I've worked in the media before and I have that experience, it got me the job. They don't. So they're self-taught. A lot of people now, a lot of millennials are self-taught. A lot of people now, they want the history, they want the maturity that I have, they want the work ethic that I have. So people hire me for those reasons because I've worked in the industry and I've used my experience working for these different stations and working in the media to help my own personal business. That's how I promote it. I promote it that I've worked at all 4 top networks. I've worked at top 100 stations. I promote that, and that's what helps me get business. And so, and also, it's very hard when you're building your own brand to learn how to monetize. Like, how are you going to make money? How are you going to, are people going to advertise with you? How are you charging your guests? Like, how are you going to make money? And so, learning how to monetize the particular platform that you have, you're going to have to probably get mentored or go and work for someone that is making money doing what you're trying to eventually do, to get that experience and find out how. So that's my take on that.
That was
That's exactly what I was gonna piggyback on. Like when we talk about monetizing and learning and relying on that experience, but the other part to that is when you talk about relying on that experience, for those who don't have maybe the strategy piece of it down or the budgeting piece of it down, maybe working with a more solidified organization will help you gather those skills while also being able to apply it to your own business. So I think it's both as well.
Did anybody else want to add to that? Alrighty, well, I would like to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to be a panelist on MamaLisa Career Talks Media, and all of you who took the time to watch us on Facebook Live or come in through the Zoom room. Now, before we close every show, I always like to leave some final thoughts with you from our panelists. Some of the things that they said tonight that I'd like for you to remember is plan ahead and ask for help, get a lawyer, and get contracts. Use social media to grow your brand. YouTube is a great teacher for those of you looking to learn. Don't be afraid to ask for the opportunity. And sometimes in order to move up, you have to move around. Be your best advocate. Create your own path. And do what you need to do to get where you want to go. So again, thanks to all of our panelists. I'm MamaLisa. I know cool people, and I brought them to you. Good night, everyone.